Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Wolves. Today on the show, a sneak peek at the Locked On NBA Top 100 Player Project. I'll tell you where I'm ranking Timberwolves players in the top 100 and why, as well as where I'm ranking a few other players. What my philosophy is behind this. I'll give you a sneak preview here on today's show. Welcome in. You are Locked On Wolves.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Ben Beecken. I'm the host of Locked On Wolves. Today's episode is brought to us by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Not your first order, your first year. 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNBA. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy hump day. And today on the show, I'm going to give you a sneak peek of a project that we have never done before at Locked On. And that is the Locked On NBA Top 100 Players. It is a new initiative that we're doing. We are ranking all NBA players and then taking the top 100, making that list public. We'll reference it all the time throughout the season. And this list, I'll explain in a minute why I think it will be superior. I'm a little biased, but superior to really every other top player list that some of these other networks have put out there. I'll talk a bit about the overall plan on the Locked On side, Locked On NBA side, and then also what my philosophy was as I went through and ranked the players. I am nearly done with my list. I'm submitting it this week. So this is a peek behind the curtain at what this list will look like when I submit it later this week. So we'll do that on today's show. And of course, specifically where those Wolves players are. We'll hit a couple Wolves notes at the end of the show today too. A big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. Okay, so this Locked On NBA Top 100 Player Project. Every host is going to go through and rank the players. So yes, 30 teams. Some teams have 2 hosts. So we're talking probably 40 to 45 hosts, plus our draft experts, plus a few other folks that at Locked On NBA. So we're probably talking plus or minus 50 experts that are ranking the players. And the reason why I think this list will be better than, say, ESPN's gone through ranking every player, like nearly 500 to just 100, and plenty of other sites, CBS Sports and The Ringer and others have done their own ranking lists. And the reason why I think ours will be the best is because we actually have team experts doing this. And so it's going to filter out if you've only got, 15 experts that some have biases and others may have less biases and whatever, I think it's going to be a little bit noisier. Where in theory, everyone that's doing this may be inherently biased towards the team that they cover a little bit, even if they're not trying to be. I recognize that could be possible. They're the players they see every single, moment of them on the court, but that should be evened out across the teams, right? Across all 30 to 50 people that are participating in this, but across the hosts for all 50 teams. So I think this is going to be a really fair cross section of the NBA. And I say this now, and then when the list comes out, I'm for sure going to quibble with where some Timberwolves players are ranked, no doubt. But what I went through is I went in and ranked, obviously all 100 players, or the top 100 players. And the way we went about it is each team submitted like their top 5 to 7 players on their roster who they would think would have a shot at cracking the top 100. So I'm going to give you my Timberwolves player rankings, where I put them on the ranking as of now. I have until Friday to tweak my list. And what I did is I put it together, I slept on it, I made some tweaks, I'm going to sleep on it again, and then I'm going to make tweaks toward the end of the week and really submit what I think is the absolute best list. But I'm going to talk through where we're at now. My philosophy when I rank is to take these players and just in a vacuum, who is the best player in the league? Remove the situation first, right? Who's the best player in the league straight up? Is this guy better than the next guy, better than the next guy? So in a vacuum, who is the best player in the league? Like, I would still argue it's Nikola Jokic. Yes, SGA won the MVP. Yes, he won the title. You could argue it's SGA. I put him second on my list. So that's the first thing. Beyond that, how do they impact winning? And this is obviously, I get that it's a little bit ambiguous, But like, here's a good example. So if you play a significant role on a winning team and there's a player who has more production in terms of volume scoring, or even if they're just a better shooter or whatever, but they're on a bad team and they don't contribute to winning on a bad team. There are good players on bad teams, obviously, but there's some teams like the Nets. I'm pretty sure only have one guy on this list. Actually, there's a lot of teams that only, not a lot of teams. The Jazz have one guy on this list. The Wizards have one guy on my list. It doesn't mean that there can't be good players on bad teams. It just means, how much of the load are they carrying? Are they impacting winning in a significant way? So that means, like, for instance, like Rudy Gobert is a good example of this, actually. Rudy, for a long time, was ranked maybe a little high in some lists. He didn't score a ton. He had a couple of years with the Jazz where he scored a little bit. And now he's getting ranked way too low. Like, he's like in the 50s and 60s on these lists the last couple of years. I ranked him higher than that. We'll get to where he is in a little bit. But Rudy Gobert is a great example. I'm pretty sure he's been on 2 losing teams in his career throughout his rookie season. He's been in the playoffs virtually every year. He's been to the conference finals now the last couple of years, won a round, had the best record in the Western Conference with Utah a few years ago, won a round in Utah. He hasn't won a title, and I get that. That's a different conversation, or I should say it's a related conversation. It's a factor, just like anything else. And just like what I'm explaining now. So, like, take a Rudy Gobert or take an Aaron Gordon, somebody who, like, the individual numbers, he sacrificed what he was in Orlando for being an important piece on a championship team in Denver and still an important piece on a good team. And, like, guys like that, for me, they're going to rank higher than, say, like DeMar DeRozan, right? Like, yeah, he puts up numbers in a vacuum. Who's a better scorer, right? That's a different question. But who's impacting winning more? Is it DeMar DeRozan? Or is it Aaron Gordon? Is it DeMar DeRozan or is it Rudy Gobert? I don't mean to pick just on DeMar DeRozan. Like, you could put other guys in that. I'm looking at my list right now. Like, who's another guy that would be a good example of that? Well, Brandon Miller. I mean, it's not really his fault he's on the Hornets, but, like, Brandon Miller, like, is he a better player than, in a vacuum, would people argue he's better than Rudy Gobert? I don't know how many people would actually make that argument, but some people I'm sure would. I'm sure Shaq would, right? Tyrese Maxey, like, that's a tricky one. How good did he look when he had more guys around him, when he had Joel Embiid, versus how does he look now? And how would you rank him against, say, Rudy Gobert or Julius Randle? So given the context of the team that they're on, how are they impacting winning themselves? And that is secondary to who's just in a vacuum a better player. Like, has De'Aaron Fox won at a high level? No. But I'm not going to try and argue that Rudy Gobert is better than De'Aaron Fox. Even though Rudy Gobert has been on better teams and he's clearly a floor raiser, whereas De'Aaron Fox is not, De'Aaron Fox is going to make a bigger impact on your team and have a higher ceiling and provide more offensively than what Rudy Gobert is. It's probably closer than what many people would expect in my mind. But in a vacuum, I'm not going to try and make the argument that Rudy Gobert is a better player than De'Aaron Fox, even if but then again, you get to guys that are closer in that same conversation. Like Tyrese Maxey, that's a little bit of a closer conversation. Trae Young, that's another good one. Like, he's put up some great numbers. He's a really great shooter. All the above, but has he truly impacted winning? How does that jive with a team that a player that's never been a big time scorer but is always on good teams like Rudy Gobert, or a team or a player that has scored and has been an all-star and has won some accolades, but their teams haven't won yet? Like Tyler Hero's another good example. Like, he's been obviously a part of good teams, but now that it's him and Bam Adebayo and not a whole lot else, like, what happens in Miami? Like, where do you put him on a list like this? So I'm not going to go through my whole 100 players. That would be a lot. I also am not 100% done with my rankings yet. So I'm going to give you where I have the Wolves ranked now, some of the players around them, and some of the I guess the conversation I had with myself about where I was ranking these guys, my justification for ranking them the way that I did. So we'll do that here next. We'll go through, I've got 4 Timberwolves players. No, I shorted them. I have 5 Timberwolves players on this list in the top 100. Do I have 5 or do I have 6? I might actually end up with 6. So I'm going to rattle those off where they're at, give you some justification behind that. And then obviously when this list comes out here in a few weeks, we'll do a lot of conversation about where certain players are. I'll compare my list to the ultimate Locked On NBA list. when that comes out here in a few weeks. So we'll do all that here next on the show today, starting with the Timberwolves players. We'll do that next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at Monarch Money, title sponsors at Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you are also building wealth. When I started using Monarch Money, it was obvious to me I was spending too much money on restaurants, specifically food delivery. It's tempting. It happens a lot during the basketball season. It happens sometimes in the summer, late at night, on the weekends. Why not? Well, I'll tell you why, because it really adds up. And Monarch Money helped me realize that. Maybe it's subscriptions that you don't realize you have or you don't use that often. Monarch Money will have everything in one app, so it makes it easier to manage all of your money, all your subscriptions, all your expenses on a day-to-day basis. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKDOWNNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right. So let's talk Timberwolves players on my list. I'll give you my top 10 right now, just because it's easy and it's why not? And again, I reserve the right to adjust this a little bit. As of right now, I have Nikola Jokic number 1. I have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander number 2. I don't think much explanation is needed there. I have Giannis Antetokounmpo 3rd. I think that's still the right place to have him. I have Luka Doncic 4th. Those guys could flip. That argument could be made. And I should also say, we're factoring in injuries. So I don't have Jason Tatum or Tyrese Halliburton on my list. This is for this season. Jason Tatum probably would have been 5th on my list. Halliburton would have probably been in the 6 to 8 range on my list. Neither one of them are on my list. Kyrie's on the list, but he's pretty far down because these guys are not playing, or in the case of Irving, not playing for several months. And it's the body of work, the expected body of work in the 25-26 season. So with no Jason Tatum, that means Anthony Edwards is number 5 on my list. He would have been 6 or 7, depending on your Tatum and Halliburton thoughts. But I have Ant at number 5 on my list. I mean, look at the guys he's ahead of. Steph Curry. I think he's better than Steph at this stage. Jalen Brunson. Certainly, Ant's a two-way player. Jalen Brunson maybe can take over games. Not maybe. He can take over games more effectively, I would say, than Anthony Edwards. I think that right now, Ant is clearly a better defender. The size obviously helps. He's a better volume three-point shooter. And I do think on any given night, the upside for what Ant can do is greater. Jalen Brunson is better in the clutch than Anthony Edwards. However you want to, factor that in. But I have Jalen Brunson 7. I've got Donovan Mitchell 8. And you could quibble with Brunson and Mitchell and flip those guys if you want to. I have Anthony Davis 9, and I have LeBron James 10. I know that's maybe a little higher than some people might have Anthony Davis, but I think he impacting winning. And I know he hasn't won at a high level by himself who has really, but he's had to be the number 2 guy when he's won. Well, I mean, that's where LeBron is now too. And this is a 25-26 list. I've got Kawhi at 11 and Kevin Durant at 12. So that's kind of a weird range of older guys with Davis, LeBron, Kawhi, Kevin Durant. And then I guess other guys of note, I've got Evan Mobley 13, Wembanyama 14. Cat is at 15 on my list. To find another Timberwolf, you've got to, which by the way, that's a little bit high for Cat. Last year, he would have been in the low 20s for me, but he showed a lot, I think, this year, being asked to play essentially 2 different roles at different times in the season. The pre-Mitchell Robinson return and the post-Mitchell Robinson return. And I know that there were things down the stretch last season that Knicks fans didn't love with Cat, but guess what? That's part of it, right? There's issues with basically all the guys on this list. Cat's a really nice player. The next Timberwolf on my list, I have Julius Randle. I'm really struggling actually with Julius. I had him as high as in the 30 range, and now I have him down at 37. I feel like he's going to be in the low to mid 30s for me when it's all said and done. Some of the struggles I'm having with this are, if I had done this list in February, I would have been man, I don't know if he's a top 40 player. Then you see what happens at the end of the regular season, and then the first 2 rounds of the playoffs is man, is he a top 20 to 25 player. And then you see what happens against the Thunder, which is why a list like this is so crazy. It's definitely what have you done for me lately? There's the recency bias piece. There's all of the stuff. There's just so much noise to wade through. And like I have him ahead of Trae Young. I have him ahead of Ivica Zubac. Zubac hasn't proven to win at a high level, which is such a silly phrase. And I hate that I just said it, but like Zubac is a great player, but you're not running anything through Ivica Zubac. That's about as high as a guy like that can be on a list like this, I think. Scotty Barnes, 40, Lauri Markkanen, 41, LaMelo Ball, 42. Those are kind of more empty calorie, empty stat type guys to this point. Yes, with upside, with all those Scotty Barnes, Markkanen, LaMelo Ball. I have Julius Randle ahead of all those guys. I'm struggling with him and Draymond Green. Before the playoffs, I would have put Draymond ahead of Julius Randle, but Draymond Green looked old, and Julius Randle took his lunch money in the playoffs. So I struggle putting Draymond ahead of Julius. I'm the range I have him in. Other guys I've got like in the low 30s, Jamal Murray, who certainly looked better as the year wore on last year. Tyrese Maxey, we already talked about a little bit. Derek White, who fits that like super role player. He's better than a role player, but he's not, an alpha superstar type guy. Franz Wagner, James Harden, Jaren Jackson Jr. Of course, we have to factor in injury stuff there. Chet Holmgren, John Morant, same thing. That's like my 28. I did it backwards, but like 28 through 38. Julius is somewhere in that range, plus or minus 30. I don't think you can put him much lower than mid-30s, given that he was the second best player on a conference finals team. And the year prior, he was an important piece, albeit injured down the stretch, on a really good Knicks team. And we've seen him start to impact winning more over the past couple of years. So I think it's difficult to slide him too far down. And that's why I have Julius Randle ranked, call it low 30s right now on my list. But given some of the context around where he's at, Rudy Gobert is the next one I've got on my list. And this is another one. There's going to be a lot of questions about like, where should Rudy be on people's lists? Like I've seen lists with him in the 50s and 60s. I think even before last year, there were some that had him lower, which is bonkers coming off a defensive player of the year. A few years ago, I would have had him, in the 20s. I understand not putting him in the 20s after this season because we talked about this on yesterday's show. The rebounding took a clear step back. The block shots weren't, year two in Minnesota was his best shot blocking year. This was still better than his first year, but he's pulled away from the rim a little bit more often. The offense, I just thought he was a little less impactful around the rim. He's still an all defensive second team player. He still got votes for defensive player of the year, at least, the ranked choice voting there. I've got him right now. And again, this is going to slide a little bit. I have him at 43 on my list. I have him right behind some of those empty calorie type guys we just talked about because of what they can do on a night in and night out basis. But this is where it gets tough. Like, is Trae Young a better player than Rudy Gobert? I don't know. Discuss. I ranked him slightly ahead of Rudy, but I don't think anyone could argue with a straight face that Trae Young's teams, you can't argue that his teams have been better than Rudy Gobert's teams. We should ask Quinn Snyder, right? Quinn Snyder was Gobert's coach in Utah. He's currently Trae Young's coach in Atlanta. But I also have Gobert ahead of Zion Williamson. Who knows what you're getting from Zion? We have to factor in the injury piece of things. And he was good, not great. He was very good, not great when he was healthy this year. OG Anunoby, Jalen Johnson with the Hawks, Tyler Hero, who we talked about a little bit, Aaron Gordon. So I've got him, 5 spots ahead of Aaron Gordon. That's probably controversial for some people. Norman Powell, Desmond Bane, Austin Reeves. Those are all guys who can impact winning, but like Desmond Bane, what's the upside of what he's giving you if the shot's not falling? Austin Reeves, the turnover issues, the defense. Like those guys haven't consistently impacted winning in the way that Rudy Gobert has. And this is where it gets tough. And I go to, in a vacuum, who's the better guy? If you're not sure, or if it's close, you got to go to the next thing, which is who's impacting winning. What's the track record of the teams that player A and player B have been on and how they have contributed to those teams winning? I'd hear an argument for Tyler Hero being higher than 47 based on the fact that he was a big part of some really good Miami teams. But he's also had some really bad stretches and a lot more volatile than you'd like it to be. Jalen Johnson doesn't have enough of a track record to be ahead of Rudy Gobert. Lauri Markkanen, I had an easier time with that one. I maybe could have him even higher than 41 based on what he's done the last couple of years with the Jazz. So it's absolutely noisy. It's absolutely a challenge. But currently I have Rudy Gobert at 43, which I bet is higher than what a lot of people are going to rank him at. Again, I don't know. I don't know what the other hosts are doing with their rankings. And, be very curious to see where he ends up. I have 2 more Wolves players on my list. Actually, no, I have 3 more. That's right. I have 6 guys. I managed to get 6 Wolves in my top 100. I have 3 more Timberwolves players, and I think it's fair. This wasn't a stretch either, and I'll explain what I mean by that here next to close out the show. Okay. So Timberwolves players so far. I've got Anthony Edwards 5. I've got Julius Randle in the 30 to 35 range. Really struggling with that. I've got Rudy Gobert at 43. Next up on my list, I have Jaden McDaniels. I have Jaden McDaniels at 59 on my player ranking list league wide in the Locked On NBA top 100 players in his range. I'll start at 55. I've got DeMar DeRozan at 55. I already don't like that. I should have Jaden ahead of DeMar DeRozan. Now that I'm reading this out loud, see, this is why I reserve the right. I have a couple days to make changes before I submit it. Michael Porter Jr. at 46. I think that's defensible. Amen Thompson at 57. I bet a lot of people have him higher. I think there needs to be more evidence of actual consistency for a good team before he gets too much higher than 57. Fred VanVleet at 58. I've got Jaden at 59. I've got Lou Dort of the Thunder at 60. I bet a lot of people have Dort ahead of McDaniels, but I think some of it's very close between those guys, right? Like the high level defense is very, the impact is very similar for both of those guys, and they both have their moments offensively too, and they both disappear offensively, right? Trey Murphy of the Pelicans, 61, Miles Turner, 62, Kobe White on the Bulls, 63. I've got Kyrie at 64. You're only getting like 2-ish months of Kyrie, 2.5 months of Kyrie plus the playoffs. So I may bump him down a little bit. That might be a little high. I've got Alex Caruso at 65. Then Drew Holiday, Isaiah Hartenstein, Andrew Nembhard, Mikal Bridges, and then Jalen Suggs at 70. That's the neighborhood I've got Jaden in. I think I'm going to put him up above. I think I'm going to slide DeMar down to about 59 and put Jaden McDaniels up a couple spots into the 56 to 58 range. Again, the high-end defense is top 5, easily top 5 defender, top 3 perimeter defender in the NBA caliber, and that matters. And what we've seen offensively and some of the stuff we saw in the playoffs last year for Jaden, that needs to be recognized, and that's why I've got him there. Naz Reid is my next Timberwolf on the list. I've got him at 75. I don't think there's any argument he belongs in the top 100. And that may be a little low even. I'm curious to see where other hosts have him. Naz at 75. I mentioned Suggs was at 70. I'll give you the guys in between. Aaron Nesmith, at 71. Josh Giddey at 72. Joel Embiid, because I don't know what to do with Joel Embiid at 73. People may have him lower. I mean, if he doesn't play, sure. But if he does play, he's going to be pretty good, because turns out he is. Even when he doesn't look like how he did 5 years ago, still a good player. Brandon Miller, 74. Naz at 75. Old friend Zach LaVine at 76. Brandon Ingram, 77, which might be a little high. Tumani Kamara with the Blazers at 78. CJ McCollum, 79. And Paul George, another guy I don't know what to do with, at 80. I feel pretty good about that ranking for Naz. I mean, that, like, you talk league wide, you know what, there's like essentially what this is, like if you look at it this way, there's 30 teams, 5 players a team, that's 150 players are quote unquote starting caliber players. It's obviously not that clean because positions matter. That puts Naz Reid kind of squarely in that he's a top 4 guy on the average starting lineup, or in an average starting lineup in the NBA. And that's true. Like, the Wolves have a lot of really good players. It makes sense that he's in this range. I think anywhere from 70 to 80 makes sense. You can even go a little higher with Naz, but that's where I've got him, ahead of Kristaps Porzingis by a few spots, ahead of Nikola Vucevic. I don't think there's any question at this point. That's right. And then my last Timberwolf I have on here, I got Donte DiVincenzo on here at number 99. And it was close, but again, like, we're taking out Jason Tatum. We're taking out Tyrese Halliburton. We're taking out I guess those are the 2 big ones with the injuries. Kyrie was impacted, but he was going to be on the list anyway. I'm not including any rookies. I think some hosts will. I just think it's really tough to be like, oh yeah, Cooper Flagg is better than Josh Giddey. Like, I don't know. He probably will be this year, but it's there's no NBA evidence, so I really struggle with that. And we were not given a directive, to be clear, to include or not include rookies, so I'm not including Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey, other guys that maybe would have hit this list. I when it got down to it, it was like, all right, is Donte DiVincenzo better or worse than Jordan Poole? He's better than Jordan Poole. Is he better or worse than Walker Kessler? Well, if they let Walker Kessler play, maybe we'd have a better idea. Like, I think he's better than him. Is he better or worse than Oscar Thompson? I think he's a better player than Oscar Thompson. Is he better or worse than Gary Trent Jr.? That one's maybe closer, but I think what Donte does to impact winning night in and night out, Kelly Oubre was another one I considered. Shaedon Sharpe, like right at the end of the list. I think it makes sense to have Donte at 99. I've got PJ Washington with the Mavs at 100, and Mark Williams, recently traded Mark Williams at 98. I have Emmanuel Quickly at 97. I really like him, and I think he was obviously banged up last year, but if he plays a little bit more, he'll rise up this list as well. So that's the list. I got 6 Wolves in the top 100. I feel pretty good about it. I'm going to tweak, obviously, the Julius thing I got to settle on, and then, tweak a few things here and there. So we'll probably revisit this next week. My actual ranking, the final ranking, I don't think will come out until sometime later in August, and we'll obviously do a couple of shows on that and kind of unpack where everybody else had everybody ranked. And I'm kind of hoping, I don't know if they're going to give us like every host ranking. I think that would be fun. I'm not sure I'll get to see that or not, but I want to know like individually where other shows are ranking Timberwolves players. I think that'd be a ton of fun to look at. Quick Timberwolves note here at the end of the show today is Matteo Spagnuolo. Remember Matteo Spagnuolo? The Timberwolves drafted him in the second round 3 years ago. He played in Summer League that summer. Timberwolves still hold his rights. He did sign a 3-year deal with Baskonia to stay in Spain. He does have NBA exit clauses though, according to Urbanos, the outlet that is reporting this. So, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if they're buyouts or if it's after each year, or after just 1 year, or after just 2 years. We don't know. But there are exit clauses if he does want to come stateside. You may remember his profile was a bigger guard with a really good passer and a subpar shooter, but not like, to use other European players who didn't come over right away as an example, Ricky Rubio, not as good of a passer as Rubio, but a better shooter and scorer than Rubio was when he came over. Like a little bit in between on those, bigger guard, modest athlete, a pretty good defender despite being a modest athlete. And he looked okay in Summer League a couple of years ago. So Timberwolves still hold his rights, and he does have the ability to come over here if he does opt out of his contract at some point in the next couple of years in Spain. But that was the latest Timberwolves news here in the last 24 hours or so. All right. That's all I got for you today. A bit of a programming note. We will not have a show Thursday. We're going to kind of ease into our call it 6-week, slower period schedule. So no show Thursday. I will be back Friday with a show to get you through your weekend. And then we'll do probably 3 shows a week, 3 to 4. We may do 4 some weeks starting next week. Of course, if anything big happens, the Wolves sign anybody. If there's any trades, we'll do bonus shows. We'll do extra shows, all that stuff. And obviously looking to line up some guests too here throughout the summer. Some of our friends that have been on the show several times before, maybe some new guests here, talk more draft stuff, obviously talk more NBA top 100, Locked On NBA top 100 as well. Lots to get to. There'll be coaching staff news eventually, like all that stuff. So there's still things going on. We'll still do at least 3, if not 4 shows a week throughout the month of August as well. So a big thank you once again for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. A reminder that for your second listen, you could go check out the Locked On NBA podcast, where there is absolutely no offseason. Our guys, Doug, Matt, and Hayes, will keep you updated on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything else that you might need to be the most informed NBA fan. Find Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Of course, this show is also part of that very same network, your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast. We'll catch you next time.